Good morning, everyone, and well, happy Thanksgiving for tomorrow. We are going to be talking about a very interesting topic that's very appropriate for the holidays. That is called intuitive eating. So that's what all of us are going to do when the holidays are there. We are eat intuitively. So joining me would be Michaella. Michaella is a health coach who specializes in eating disorders. There you are. Great, perfect timing today.
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I was just telling our viewers what an appropriate topic for the holidays: intuitive eating, which is what all of us are now going to start doing, starting with the Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into the topic.
Yeah. So my name is Michaella. I am the Nourished Soul Health Coach, and I really help people ditch fad diets, destructive eating habits, and really gain a sense of self-confidence and heal their relationship with food and their bodies.
That's amazing. So let's talk about intuitive eating. What exactly is intuitive eating?
So intuitive eating, for an overall answer, is really using your intuition to make the food choices and to eat, essentially. So there are actually 10 different principles that we can go into here in a little bit. Yeah. But really, it's using your body's language, because your body is always communicating with you at every single moment of the day. So it's really tuning into your hunger cues, your fullness cues, what foods sound good, how much to eat or how little, and really just tuning into yourself.
So what you're saying is my body is actually and it happens to all of us. Like suddenly last night, I know I was almost ready to go to bed, and I'm thinking of what is it that I'm going to eat tomorrow for my breakfast. I'm like, I just ate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and sometimes I'll do that too. I think part of it is maybe we just want to plan ahead. It's kind of just that human capability of, I want to make sure that I have my day planned out. So that could be part of it. Yeah. And other times, really, your body actually, still might be hungry. But I think, like the last time in our last live, like I said, if you are kind of battling those hunger cues and not really knowing if you're hungry or not, drink a glass of water. Okay. Usually if we're dehydrated, our body can send us false hunger cues. Mm-hmm. So really we might eat something when actually we need more water.
Okay. So let's talk about the principles. You said there are 10 principles. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, of course. So the first one is to reject diet mentality. Okay. So all in all, diet culture, it does not work. These diets are used to kind of draw us in so they can make money, and it makes you codependent on them. Mm-hmm. They do not teach you how to feed your body properly, especially because everyone has different needs, different calorie intakes, different foods that they need. Mm-hmm. And the diet is basically this one size fits all plan that really doesn't work. So some things that people can begin to ask themselves is, are my diets affecting my relationships in a negative way? Are you focusing so much on the foods that you're eating, the times that you are quote unquote supposed to eat, going to the gym, having those checklists? Are you missing out on time with your family? Are you missing out on time with your friends? Are you missing on that time with yourself too? Yeah. And then noticing along with those patterns, are you irritable, or do you get very upset when you can't go to the gym on a certain day or a certain time? Do you get irritable when your meal plans get quote unquote messed up? Mm-hmm. These are some things to look at, because we don't want our food and our eating habits to take control of our lives. That's not how food is meant to be. It's meant to be harmonious, and it's meant to be something that is enjoyable. Yeah. So a couple recommendations, I would say get rid of the diet tools. If you need to, get rid of the scale, because that can be a triggering point for some people. Mm-hmm. Get rid of those magazines that are kind of trying to, put these false advertisements on, because that's their job, is to try to suck you in, but don't listen to those. And then consider what's more important than, like your appearance or a size or a number. How do you feel when you eat, when you move your body? That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to come back to that place of happiness and comfortableness.
Mm-hmm.
So the second eating principle is honor your hunger.
Okay.
So a lot of times, and I've even done this myself years and years ago when I was going through my disordered eating, but when I was hungry, because I was so focused on the number on the scale or the size number of my clothing, I would skip meals. I would ignore my hunger cues.
Yeah.
And that only made things worse, because when you ignore those hunger cues, I mean, your body has those for a reason. It needs the fuel. It needs the food.
Mm-hmm.
So when you push those away, obviously those are going to get stronger and stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you can have mood swings too. You can become irrationally angry,
Mm-hmm.
or things like that. I know that was one thing for me. And I know a common term today is hangry. And it is actually a thing, when you do get too hungry, your hormones kind of go a little bit haywire, just depending, but you actually can get angry.
Yeah.
So eating balanced meals, listening to when you actually are hungry. And just like I said at the very beginning, if you're having trouble with those, maybe start with a glass of water. If it's maybe like a time that you're not usually eating, just to see if you're dehydrated. But then if your stomach is still growling and you know that you actually need sustenance, please eat. Never skip meals. Don't, push them away. Your body needs the food. It's communicating to you that it needs it.
Mm-hmm.
But then with that, making a wise choice.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, okay, well, what sounds good to me? What do I need to give myself that energy?
Yeah.
And then when you're choosing those foods, think about like, what smells do you want to smell right now? What do you want to taste? Do you want to cook your food? Different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then principle 3 is to make peace with your food.
Okay.
Now, I think a lot of people, who have been kind of sucked into the diet culture, they see food as the enemy. Oh, if I eat, I'm going to gain weight. If I eat, this negative thing is going to happen to me.
Yeah.
We want to eradicate that. We want to be friends with our food, because food is here to help us. It is here to fuel us and to feed us and to help us grow, especially, as we're children and young adults. It gives us brain power. It gives us energy. So looking at food as your friend instead of your enemy. So choosing foods that are whole foods from the earth, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. If you choose to eat meat and fish, having it come from a sustainable, humane source, and really understanding what those foods are doing to help your body, whether it to be healing, energizing, fulfilling. We want to have all those things. And always give yourself permission to eat. I think a lot of times people who are, again, sucked into the diet culture, it's, oh, I can't eat food at all. I'm not going to let myself eat. Or if they do allow themselves to eat, it's very little, maybe something not satisfying, or maybe on the extreme end of things, which I know I used to experience, was just the complete binging of, okay, well, if I'm going to eat this one meal, I better, basically inhale it before, something else happens. Yeah. So we want to make a healthy relationship with our food. So principle 4 is challenging the food police. So basically saying no to the thoughts in your mind that eating less might be good for you. Or if you eat a piece of cake, or if you indulge in a meal like Thanksgiving, getting rid of those thoughts that say, oh, if I eat too much, I'm going to be in trouble. Oh, if I eat this, I'm going to gain weight or get sick. It's one meal. Enjoy it. Spend the time with your family, with your friends, with the people around you. Enjoy it, because it is home cooked. It is made with love, and you deserve to have that.
I think that's a really good point, because all of us now, we're going to say, oh, I can't eat this, so I can't eat the cranberry sauce. I can't do, all of us do that. And, right. and I think what you're saying is, don't deny yourself, right? If you want to eat something, don't deny it. Maybe you can do a portion control, like we talked about last time, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can have a little bit in moderation, and if you want a little bit more, that's okay. But again, kind of take a step back and ask yourself, okay, am I, forcing myself to eat a huge portion because I'm afraid of it being maybe taken away from me, or if I can't have it? And we want to get away from these restricting thoughts because, again, food is not meant to be restricted or feared. It's meant to be there as a tool, as fuel, and different things like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So principle 5 is to feel your fullness. So I think a lot of us, especially on Thanksgiving and, during the holidays, we overindulge. And, again, do not punish yourself for that. If it happens, it happens. It's okay. Your body will work to, digest everything, but give yourself a break. But to feel your fullness, if you, again, this is kind of new and you don't really know how to gauge the feeling of your fullness, what I like to do or what I recommend is about halfway through your meal, kind of put your silverware down, kind of take a step back, take a couple deep breaths, and then notice the feeling within your stomach. And usually, you can begin to feel that fullness. And if you know that if you take a couple more bites, you're going to be to that point where you're overly full, then just stop right there. But again, if you stop and you're like, no, you know what, like my stomach, I'm actually hungry. Like I know that I'm just going to finish the food on my plate. That's perfectly fine too. And it's a practice. So this is something that we can do every day, every meal, especially if it's something that you're kind of, getting used to. So again, be easy on yourself. If you do overindulge a little bit, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I promise you, you're not going to be in trouble or anything. Drink some hot water and it'll all be okay. All right. And then also with that, make sure, and this goes more for maybe if you eat alone, because I think during the holidays, we're all just surrounded by family. But if, maybe you're alone or maybe like with your family on a weeknight, notice if you have the TV on in the background. Notice if you guys are maybe on your computer or on your phone as you eat, because that can be very distracting and that actually might take away from, the connection that you have with your food. So you might be more inclined to just continue to eat since your brain and your stomach are not connected, since your eyes and your brain are focused on, the energy around you, whether it be the TV, the computer, the iPad, things like that. All right, so principle 6 is discover the satisfaction factor. So a lot of times when we're sucked into the diet culture, it's usually eat a little bit of this, eat a little bit of that, kind of get rid of your favorite foods. And it almost becomes this pattern of, you just lose that sensation of, oh my gosh, I really loved this meal. I loved the way it tasted. I loved the way it smelled. I loved eating it with the people that I was around. And a lot of times we get distracted and we look to outside sources telling us what to eat, how much, and when. And again, that's giving our power away to someone else when we want to keep the power within ourselves to make our own choices. So a couple of things that you can ask yourself is, what do I truly want to eat? What flavors do I want to taste right now? What kind of textures? What do I want it to smell like? You can also ask yourself, what would hit the spot right now? Would it be that piece of turkey, maybe some mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce? Maybe that piece of pumpkin pie with some whipped cream. And then, just not only for the holidays, but in your everyday life, asking yourself that for every meal, what sounds good to me? And learning what foods you actually like, how much food you want to eat. And that really gives us the power and the knowledge of what is actually good for our bodies. And principle 7 is to cope with your emotions with kindness. I think a lot of us, even myself included, in the past, I was an emotional eater. Whenever I was angry or sad or lonely, I would go to food. Yeah. It was my coping mechanism. It would fill that void. And I think a lot of people can agree, whether they may do it consciously or subconsciously. I think we turn to food as a comfort a lot of times. And then the aftermath of that is the guilt, the shame, the regret, maybe the anger at ourselves for letting ourselves, eat that much. So when those emotions come up, taking a step back, processing, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I lonely? Whatever the emotion might be. And then approach it with kindness and compassion. You can almost imagine it. How would you handle it if your best friend came to you and said, you know what, like, I'm really, really sad today, not sure what to do? Like, what would you tell them? Maybe go for a walk, give your loved one a hug, spend some time with loved ones, listen to your favorite music, do things that maybe turn that emotion around or help you process it a little bit more, rather than going to the food as your source for the healing, essentially.
Yeah. It's fun. It's interesting when you talk about the emotions. I've been watching The Crown. The Crown. I think it's a season 3 or season 4, where they showed Diana. Diana Spencer, and they showed this beautiful woman, but then they showed that she has an eating disorder, and then they not that we are discussing her life here, but what I'm trying to say is the correlation between the emotional part of it and what the food is, and then there's a correlation that they're showing her emotionally, whatever the word is, not in the relationships, but that has a clear correlation with that her eating disorders, and they're showing all the that she's vomiting and all that stuff, right? So it goes back to your emotional aspect of what you're talking about.
And it's very important. I mean, that's a great example right there, that it doesn't affect just like the normal population. I mean, people everywhere, every shape and size in life, we can go through this because we are human and we do have emotions, and it's not something to be ashamed about. Rather, it's something to be aware of. And there are different tools, and talk to people, allow these emotions to come up to the surface, because until you process those emotions, they're not going to be completely healed. So we need to get through that first. So principle number 8 is to respect your body. So every single one of us is unique. We all have our own unique DNA. We all have different builds, body shapes, bone structures, everything. And again, coming back to the diet culture and the magazines, you see all these, chiseled bodies, whether they're male or female.
I know those are really bad.
Yeah, they are. They're very detrimental. And it paints this false imagery that everyone should be that way. Yeah. But we're not. We're all individual. We are all perfectly imperfect in our own way. So respecting your body, and I want to say that there's nothing wrong with improving yourself. I think there's a difference between wanting to change your body for an outside reason, like seeing that magazine or buying into something that is sold to you, rather than saying, I want to improve my health. I know that maybe I need to lose a couple pounds for the sake of my heart, for example. Or I want to gain strength. I want to gain flexibility. I want to gain endurance. There are different things. So improving based on the fact that you want to improve for yourself, because you said to yourself, I want to be better. I want to be a better version of me. So doing those things, loving yourself, you can even take practices and look in the mirror and say, like, you are strong, you are empowered, you are beautiful. And, just embracing all of that. And I think that is a very good practice. It's one of them that I use myself. And over time, those things that I was saying, I actually began to believe them. And then I began to see them. And I've done this with clients of mine, and the results, I mean, they just actually began to believe what they were saying because they could see it. And they began to love their bodies and accept them as they were at each stage of their healing process. And as they improved, they loved each part of them as it was. They weren't thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to be good until I get to this, which is what diet culture kind of trains us to think. But rather it was, okay, I'm in this stage of my life. I can do all these amazing things. Here's the next step. And then, they kind of created that pattern along until, they got to where they wanted to be and are still improving today. So. Number 9, so movement. So feel the difference within the movement. So a lot of times people think, okay, health, diet, and exercise. Those are only teeny tiny parts of it. And for me, I like the word movement better than exercise, because I think sometimes exercise puts this stigma or this pressure to, you know, have a super long workout, super heavy weights, or run long distances and essentially just, you know, tire your body out until it can't move anymore, which, you know, maybe some days we really need that heavy, you know, extra long workout because our bodies just have all that energy. But again, thinking of, you know, tuning into your body. So maybe one day you want to do maybe that high intensity interval workout, and that feels really good. But then maybe the next day your body's saying, okay, I need to slow down a little bit. Let's just go for a nice walk with the dog today. Or maybe you do some yoga or some stretching. Maybe you like to dance. Maybe you take a dancing class. There are so many different things that we can do to move our bodies. It does not have to be go to the gym, lift a million different weights for 3.5 hours, you know, 2 to 3 times a day. And, you know, we just want to, again, be in tune with ourselves because, again, you know, maybe someday, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, maybe one day you wake up and you just feel a little bit more tired, and maybe you don't feel like moving around a whole lot, but you know, you need a little bit of something. So maybe just a casual walk in the park or around your neighborhood, you know, stretching, some breathing. So again, listening to your body. Do you need to put all your energy into it, or does it need to be a little more subdued?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's like we're also obsessed with the, not that there's anything wrong with going to the gym, but gym culture has to speak. Oh, I went and I lifted some weights. Oh, way to go.
Yeah.
Including, you know, I mean, I used to do all the strength training and I hurt my shoulder because I was trying to compete with someone who was standing in front of me, and you know, that person was older than me. And I'm like, oh my God, look at that guy or a gal, you know, she's much older than me and she's able to pump up and I'm not. And I'm like going, and there you go. So it happens to all of us. And then I ended up going to an acupuncture for 1 year to get my shoulder fixed as a result of that. Right.
Right.
So to your point, exactly.
Yeah. So again, it's just it's individual. And I think a lot of times we kind of maybe do get caught up in looking at others and saying, oh, like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Maybe for some bodies, it's not physically possible or productive to do movements like that. So allowing yourself to say, oh, you know what, maybe that's just not for me, but, you know, good job for them. And then find something that makes you feel good and strong and empowered.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So the last one is honoring your body with gentle nutrition. So again, coming back to the thought that food is fuel, and to not, I don't like, you know, the super strict diets that a lot of times, you know, these companies kind of put out, or, you know, you only have to eat our bars, our shakes.
Oh yeah.
To get this physique. Because again, it doesn't teach you about nutrition. You're just, you know, blindly eating these products, maybe not knowing what the ingredients are, not knowing what they do to your body.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not the best choice for you. And then say, you know, maybe you decide to cook for yourself one day, or maybe you go out to eat with some friends or family and you feel completely lost because you're so used to, you know, these packaged things, this entire agenda for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden you're at a loss, you know, like, well, what am I supposed to order? What am I supposed to eat? And it can kind of become this vicious cycle. So learning about food, eating whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Again, if you choose to eat meat, seafood, finding a sustainable, humane source to fuel your body.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe take some cooking classes if you don't know how to, or maybe if you want to relearn. There's so many different, you know, resources out there. Learn about your food, get some books, go on Google. There's, you know, again, so many different avenues to go down this. And it's fun because you learn as you go, and as you learn about the food and how it actually affects your body in positive ways, the more you want to eat it, because you can actually then begin to feel, okay, you know what, I do feel more energetic. I do feel lighter. I feel better. And
absolutely.
And a greater, you know, positive snowball effect.
No, I couldn't agree more. I'm taking my example. I used to eat, you know, on the go and eat whatever at the cafeteria, and then go to the office and eat all kind of whatever without paying any attention. Right. And then, you know, now I try to cook as much as I can. And the energy levels that I see in myself is completely different than it was 10 years back. Yeah. And you know, I've gotten older now, but the energy level is better than I used to have before. So it's because it's just the food, because I'm you know, you start paying attention to the home cooked meals, the fresh meals. So anyway, yes, we have a Q&A session. So let's just okay. So we are saying someone is talking about, are you going to do a Q&A session? Yes. So someone is making a comment. It's not that much complex. Just go with the principles of Ayurveda. You're absolutely right. You know, you were talking, and she's talking exactly the same thing to your question. She's saying it, Michaella is saying it in a different way, exactly the same principles of Ayurveda, right? You want to comment on that, on Ayurveda, Michaella?
Actually, I would love to do more studies on Ayurveda, but the things that I've noticed, I mean, it comes back to the principles of being one with your food and understanding your body, how different foods affect your body. And correct. Again, it's all very individual. So everyone's journey is different, and maybe it could change over time. Again, you know, just depending on what you eat, maybe where you live, your stress levels, everything like that. So it's a never ending journey for sure.
Yeah, and Ayurveda talks about exactly the same thing what you're saying. You know, they're talking about you are individual, you know, individualized. Your constitution is individual, whether you are different, you know, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and based on your constitution, what is it that you should eat? And you're saying the same thing in a simple language that all of us can understand, without going into the Sanskrit words, you know, let's put it this way, a very simple way. So you're saying exactly the same thing. Ayurveda is 5,000 years old, and it talks about all the different constitutions and all the other things, and eat according to the personalization. Mm-hmm. Any comments and any feedback you have, any questions, we're open for questions anytime. There's no problem. So I know there were comments going on about that. So anything else? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I think this is a lot of information for all of us to digest. You made it very simple to understand. You know, I feel that it was very easy. Like, you follow these 10 principles. They go back to the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda also, you know, or it's exactly the same thing what you're saying, what Ayurveda talks about, but in a very simple, easy to understand. So they're saying food routine and herbal medication. That's it. Okay. Well, sure, absolutely. Are you a doctor? You're welcome to join. You know?
Yeah, it's very individual. So, I mean, you know, having your own foods, having your own routine, you know, the herbs, the medicines that your body needs, again,
Yes, exactly. Michaella said the same thing, but she just made it simple to understand, one step at a time in 10 different steps.
Yes.
So, okay, we're going to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Michaella. I think it was a lot of information. You put it together. You made it into a concise information. So I really thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Bye now.
Bye.